90 days ago, Maria was 3 weeks behind on rent, dodging calls from her credit card company, and had exactly $19 in her checking account on a Tuesday. 90 days later, she had over $1,000 saved, a credit card balance that was shrinking instead of growing, and an actual plan for the next 5 years of her life. She didn't get a raise. She didn't win anything. She didn't suddenly become a numbers person. She followed a week-by-week plan, 12 weeks, one focus at a time, and today I'm walking you through that exact plan so you can run it yourself starting this week. Most people fail at fixing their money for one simple reason. They try to fix everything at once. Budget, debt, savings, investing, all in the same overwhelmed Sunday afternoon. So instead, we're going to do what Maria did. Break 90 days into 12 weeks and give each week exactly one job. No multitasking your way through your finances. Just one focus, one win, then move to the next. Here's the full roadmap before we dive in. Let's start at week 1. Maria's week 1 task had nothing to do with cutting spending. It was just about seeing it. She pulled up the last 3 months of every account she had, bank, credit card, any loans, and laid them all out where she could actually see them. Then she sorted every single expense into 3 buckets. Fixed costs, rent, utilities, the car payment, things that show up no matter what. Discretionary, the fun stuff, eating out, shopping, things that are nice but not required. And debt payments, anything going toward a balance she owed. Once she knew her average spend in each category and compared it to what she actually earned, she had a number she'd never calculated before in her life. Her real monthly savings rate. This is the same thing every successful business does. They know their revenue, they know their expenses, and the difference is their profit. Maria just ran that exercise on herself for the first time. That's the entire job for week 1. No cutting yet, just clarity. Week 2, Maria took that same list and sorted it from largest to smallest. Then she asked one question about each item. Can I realistically shrink this by 10 to 30% over the next few months? The biggest surprise on her list wasn't rent. It was rideshare apps. She was spending over $150 a month getting around her own city without even noticing. Once she saw it written down, she started walking or taking the bus for short trips, and that one habit alone freed up real money. Next, she went through her subscriptions and found 2 she'd forgotten she was even paying for. Canceled both in under 5 minutes. She even called her car insurance provider and asked what other companies were quoting for the same coverage. A 5-minute phone call that knocked money off her bill every single month going forward. None of this was painful. She didn't quit going out with friends. She just stopped paying for things on autopilot. Small leaks, fixed one at a time, add up to real money by the end of the year. Week 3 is where things got automatic. And this is the single habit Maria says changed everything. She opened a high-yield savings account instead of leaving her cash sitting in a regular checking account, earning almost nothing. Then she set up an automatic transfer so that the moment her paycheck landed, a percentage moved out immediately, before she could spend a cent of it. This is the part most people get backwards. Saving whatever's left almost never works, because there's rarely anything left. Automating it first removes the decision completely. There's no willpower required, because the money's already gone before temptation shows up. Maria started small, just 10% of her take-home pay split between savings and a beginner investment account. It felt small. It mattered enormously, because the habit was now running on autopilot, with or without her motivation that day. Week 4, Maria turned her attention to her credit card balance and the high interest eating into everything she'd just started building. Her first move took 5 minutes. She called the credit card company and simply asked if they'd lower her rate, mentioning she'd seen better offers elsewhere. They said yes. It cost her nothing to ask. Her second move was adding a little extra to her monthly payment, even an extra $50 or $75, which doesn't sound like much, but it can shave months off a payoff timeline and save serious money in interest along the way. By the end of week 4, Maria was 1/3 of the way through her 90 days. And for the first time, her debt was shrinking instead of just sitting there. Week 5 had one single goal: get an emergency fund to $1,000. That number matters more than it sounds like it should. Most people can't cover a sudden car repair or medical bill without going into debt for it. Crossing into 4 digits in savings is as much a psychological shift as a financial one. Maria got there faster by selling a few things she wasn't using and redirecting the savings she'd already freed up from weeks 2 and 3 straight into that jar. Week 6 was about putting money to work instead of letting it sit still. Historically, stocks have outpaced almost every other place people park their money over the long run, outperforming things like bonds, gold, and even real estate over long stretches of time. Maria didn't try to pick individual stocks. She opened a simple brokerage account and bought into a broad index fund, one purchase that spreads her money across hundreds of companies at once. Boring, low effort, and historically effective. The real engine here isn't picking winners. It's consistency, investing the same amount every single month and letting decades of average market growth compound quietly in the background. It's not exciting to watch. That's exactly why it works. Week 7 shifted the focus entirely, because you can only cut expenses so far, but there's no ceiling on what you can earn. Maria's first move was simply asking for a raise, something she'd been putting off for 2 years. Worst case, the answer is no, and nothing changes. Best case, it's an instant income increase for one slightly uncomfortable conversation. She also picked up a small side hustle a few hours a week and started learning one skill that could raise her earning potential down the road. The goal for the week wasn't to solve income forever, just to identify one real lever to start pulling. Week 8, Maria did something almost too simple to feel important. She wrote her savings goal down on paper with an actual number and an actual monthly amount needed to hit it. People who write goals down and tell someone else about them are dramatically more likely to actually follow through compared to people who just think about it. So she told a friend. That accountability alone changed how seriously she took the plan. Week 9 was about being honest with herself about credit cards. Used responsibly, paid off in full every month, they can build credit history and even earn rewards. Used carelessly, they're one of the most expensive ways to borrow money that exists. Week 10 introduced a new habit entirely: tracking net worth. Just adding up everything she owned and subtracting everything she owed. One number, checked every few months, that quietly tells the whole story of whether her financial life is moving forward. It doesn't need to jump dramatically. It just needs to keep moving in the right direction. Week 11, Maria did something most people never think to do. She repeated week 1's exercise. Same statements, same categories, comparing 2 months later to see if old habits had crept back in. She found one leak that had quietly snuck back. But because she was checking, she caught it early instead of 3 months later. And week 12 was about looking past the 90 days entirely, writing down where she wanted to be in 1 year, 5 years, and 10, then breaking the biggest of those goals into a monthly number, just like she did with her emergency fund. Her very last step was setting a reminder to repeat this whole check-in every quarter, because 90 days isn't a finish line, it's the system that keeps running long after. 90 days from now is coming either way. The only real choice is whether you spend it the same way as the last 90, or whether this is the week you open your bank app and actually look. If this gave you a place to start, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know which week you're starting on first. See you in the next one.